So this video is going to be how to assemble the throttle setup on the old school Z50s, CT70s that have the through throttle cable in the bar. You know, a lot of bikes may be missing some parts, but you can actually get every single part needed to rebuild the throttle setup from many parts houses. On this particular bike, I have all new parts. It was missing the throttle setup, so I just ordered the whole packet. It comes with the grips and every part needed. So let's begin. So these are the components that make up your twist throttle. You get your outer twist throttle tube that's on the outside of your handlebar. You got your retaining component that slides on with its screw that's going to hold the throttle from being able to be pulled off not only pulled off of the bar, but the screw limits the twist. You have your cable slide, and I just call this kind of like a cable nut. So this is the OEM throttle cable that we'll be using for the C50. I just wanted to give you some terminology real quick. Free length. So this is the free length. When they say free length, you're talking about pull this as tight as you can and the distance of exposed inner wire from the outer sheathing to the end. That's your free length. I'm going to talk a little bit about that later in the video, so I just wanted to show you before I assembled the throttle cable when we weren't able to look at that. And then on your handlebar, it's a hollow bar. Your throttle cable is going to be fed inside of here, and then you're going to have a slide component that's going to be installed there. But let's start with getting this cable ran through the this cable ran through the handlebars first. So this is going to be the large end, is the part that's going to come up here and connect into the twist throttle component. And then the small end is what goes inside of the carb slide. So when I'm installing, I install from the top. Make sure you got your small end going in first. You're going to slide that down. And would you know it, I got real lucky and it actually just popped out of the hole that it comes out of. So you have a little hole here on the handlebar, that's where it's coming out of. Go ahead and pull that all the way through. Okay, so once you get your cable fed through, you might not get lucky like I did, and you have to kind of use a little pick or something to get that end to come out of the hole in the handlebar. And then once you get that out, you can pull it, but gently pull it because it tends to, the sharp edges on these handlebars, like at the openings, tend to kind of scratch away at the sheathing. So just gently pull it so you're not damaging your new throttle cables or anything like that. So just want to leave a little bit at the end like I show so we can work with it. Alright, so now it's time to use the nut that I call the nut. Now there's two sides to this nut, and the right way in this particular situation where you have a stock carb, proper free length on the cable, is to use the larger hole. There's a large hole, and then on the back side it's threaded. Use your large hole, drop your wire through the center of it, and then push through the hole, and then you'll hit the thread. So you're going to twist this on until it's snug. And it's recessed inside of the nut. Alright, so now that's on. I just like to put a little assembly grease just in this area and around here, just prevent it from sticking at all if you need to pull it later or later down the road. So you can go ahead and get that pushed into place. While I have my grease, I'm going to put a little bit on here. This is where the slide is going to, I should just put a little grease on everything. A lot of moisture can get under here over time and cause pitting and rusting. So just kind of put grease around it. Won't hurt anything. So this one thing that will get you if you don't do it, won't work if you don't do it, is just, I use a little flathead. This sometimes doesn't want to seat down all the way. Just put a little flathead here and give it a tap and send it down all the way. You want it flush. Alright, so next step is get your throttle retaining ring on. And we're going to slide it up over here. Put your cable down in there. This lip goes on first. Just slide it, and that's why you need to have this pressed down, because this won't pass over. You can rotate this screw because there's a hole in the bottom you're going to have to use. So we'll get that in place for now. Next up is our cable slide. Just going to put a little more grease on it. Put your cable back up. Go ahead and slide it in, and that's ready to be in place. Next part is your twist throttle. Now, there are some, like, what would I want to say, kind of threads in here, like helicoil threaded, and that's what rides on this slide. And as this twist throttle stationary and you twist it, it's got these corkscrew threads inside that ride inside of this channel on the slide, and as you twist it, it makes it move in and out or back and forth. So I'm gonna put a little grease inside of here, just a little bit, enough to kind of coat those areas that are going to come in contact with my slide. Might even be a good idea just to put a little more grease in that area. Alright, so now it's time to get your twist throttle in place. I am using an older one. I was working with this one and I just could not get it to give me full throttle. So I pulled one off a 1970 CT70, and the tack welds and that part that this will ride on is just slightly askew, so it's not working. Verified it by installing this one, and I get full throttle twist. But the technique I use is make sure your throttle slide's pushed all the way up against the collar ring, and you want to have this area that's cut out on the twist throttle. You want the very middle to meet with the very center line of your slide, and as you start pushing it on, as your part of your metal gets about right here, you can start to twist. So start giving it a rotation to your left or counterclockwise. As you do that, it should mount on in the correct orientation. So once you have that, you're in place. Now we're looking underneath the handlebar, and we're going to have to get this little screw or bolt, this little screw in place. So we have to turn this till we see the hole. Right there. We got that in place. I'm going to get my screw in there. Okay. And just make sure your throttle works. So everything's tightened up and in place. Just do a little run through and make sure it all works right. Alright, so I got the carbs end of my cable. Everything's installed and tightened up. Now you just want to make sure that your cable is getting pulled appropriately. So we got full throttle lock to lock on that screw underneath. It starts at this end, and I'm able to twist all the way through and hit the screw on the other end of this slot. So you're getting full twist. Alright. That's it for the install. So this is why I wanted to talk about free links real quick. And so you're making some changes, big bore kit. Still want to run the stock throttle setup through the handlebars without switching it over to a twist throttle. But you end up having, in this situation, this is where this is helpful, if you have too much free play. And what that ends up doing is have too much slack at the carb slide of your throttle cable, and you want to eat up some of that free play. Well, this is where you can actually get a free fix. Well, if it works, I always try it. But this part, if you install it on the opposite way of what it's intended, and turn it around where the threaded end, well, I should have showed you real quick with what the free play is. Should just get you a measurement real quick. So our free play on this right now in inches to the end of this, or the beginning of this large circle, is 3.025 inches. So we want to eliminate free play if the carb needs less of that at the slide on the carburetor. So you can always come up on these factory settings and pull. This would work at a CT70 and also on the Z50. Come over, flip it around so that it's not going through the hole, and then it will screw on. We'll screw this on and we'll see what the difference is here. So I had 3.025. And now I'm at 2.88. So just a quick math, the original correct way is 3.025 of an inch. And then we have 2.88. When you flip it around, subtract that, you get 0.145 inch, or you basically eat up about a little bit more, a hair more than 1/8 of an inch. So it's just a good way to try things out before you start swapping your cable around if you're doing some modifications and using a different carb, both for the CT70 or Z50.